Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Hello, Produce Buzzers podcast fans. Thanks for joining us once again. The following episode was recorded at the Southeastern Produce Council's annual Southern Exposure Convention in Tampa, Florida this year. We had to conduct our interviews out on the convention floor, so there was a lot of competing background noise. So we apologize for that, but our conversation was still audible. So please stay tuned to learn about the exciting and delicious products from Suja Juice.
Greetings, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the president and founder of Produce Buzz, along with Rick Stepp, the contributing editor to Produce Buzz. Now, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, we have a very special guest with us today. As you know, we focus mostly on fresh fruits and vegetables, but there are other things in the fresh produce aisle that are so good for you. We want to talk about some of those. And today we have a very special guest from a very special company. We have Jody Knosson from Suja Juice. And Suja Juice is making some incredibly delicious, but also very nutritious and infusing you with energy when you drink these juices. And he's going to for sure tell us about it, tell you how you find it. Look forward to the produce section. So Jody, welcome to the show. Thanks so much.
Yes, thank you. It's great to be here. Great to chat with you guys. I'm really excited to share with you a little bit about Suja Life. We're now Suja Life. We have two brands. We have Suja Organic and we have Vibe Organic as well. So that makes up the portfolio. So I'm excited to chat about it today.
Right. Yeah, I've seen in your booth at various produce conventions.
Yep.
Love the passion of your team members.
Yep.
And I said, we got to have these people on because they're so passionate about what they're doing. They're doing something good. They're providing something that's delicious, but also very healthy and nutritious.
For sure.
But before we get to the juice, let's hear about Jody. How did you come to work in this business?
That's a long story. I mean, not a long story, but it's been a long time. So I actually went to college up in Vancouver, BC. I went to a little private college up there, and initially I'd studied journalism in college, and it was starting to pursue a career in public relations and journalism and things like that. And then I was laid off at my first job, and that's when the produce industry came calling. And
we like to hire people who get fired. No, I'm kidding.
It was early in my career, but I hear you.
I could have that.
But can't work somewhere else. Come here.
Exactly. That's how it ended up, unfortunately. But no, I mean, so I ended up Bolthouse Farms was hiring for a local territory rep in the Vancouver area, and I hadn't even thought about sales, hadn't even thought about produce. I didn't even drink the juices at the time. And one question I get since I've been selling juice for 20 years now is like, "Oh, you must really like juice. Do you drink juice? Are you a juice person?" And I can honestly can't say whether I am or whether I'm not, because I've been selling juice my whole career. So I don't know if I would buy it on the shelf. I'm sure I would, but
when you can get it free, why buy it?
Exactly. So anyway, they ended up hiring me there in Vancouver, and spent about a year and a half doing that, and then moved into a regional manager role. Eventually got into a director role with Bolthouse, and ended up spending 9 years there. And then Suja came calling, and it was actually over the holidays 10 years ago. I was with my family up in Alberta, Canada at the time. I had moved down. Bolthouse had moved me down to San Diego, so I was already living in San Diego, but I was still visiting my family up in Canada. and they came calling. A recruiter reached out and said, "There's a startup juice company that's looking for somebody to help them scale their business. You've been in the industry for a while. We'd love to, interview
exciting.
you." And so Jeff Church, the founding CEO, ended up interviewing with him, and the rest is history, as they say. That's how I got to Suja. I remember walking in. I had actually flown back. I was going to go up to Tahoe over New Year's, and Jeff wanted me to come in and see the facility, and they were literally putting the facility together when I was there. So he's like, "Oh," as we're walking through the pipes and different things that they were putting together, the HPP machine, he's like, "You're going to have to use your imagination a little bit. We're building a juice factory here, and we're going to scale this business." And so was very excited to join the team and really brought on to grow, to scale the grocery side of the business.
Yeah,
so that's
been
what my
exciting.
experience is.
You already have so much experience.
Yeah.
See a young company, and they were probably really passionate. You probably could get into that.
Yeah.
So tell us about how they started. What can you tell us about their beginning?
Yeah, so it was founded really by Eric Ethan. So Eric Ethan's, and it's a really kind of California story, a real American story, as you'd expect. But literally, he had a real passion for pressing cold pressed juice, and he was doing it basically in his kitchen. And what he'd do is he'd press it into little mason jar bottles. And his whole service was he would skateboard around La Jolla. If you know La Jolla in San Diego, it's a more affluent area. And there were several clients that he would literally take out their empties and fill their fridges with full fresh new bottles of juice. And so that's really how it got going. So we always say, we started on a skateboard. We were literally shipping our first product through on a skateboard. So that's pretty exciting. It's very unique.
That's unique.
It's very California, as you'd expect. And I would say that's really the ethos of the company. We're very it's all about like the quality of the food and also like helping people live a long, beautiful life. That was our initial mission at the time, was long, beautiful life. Help people live a long, beautiful life. But that's really what we've been about since we started. So
Fantastic. So tell us about the juices now. What you probably have. I know you have a lot of different flavors and combinations. It's really great.
Yeah.
And then just tell us what.
Yeah. So we started out with 6 core flavors that Eric was pressing at the time, and he had met while he was building out this business with these more affluent folks. He had met a couple co-founders that helped him really get scale on the business. And the way we were able to scale the business is obviously with a 2 to 3 day shelf life, you can't send that anywhere, right? So he found James Brennan, who's one of our founders, who connected him with Jeff Church, who was our founding CEO. And Jeff had gone out and found this technology called high pressure processing, so HPP. It's been around for 30 or 40 years, but it hadn't really been applied as much to the juice side of the business. And so that was, with pressure, we were able to, a couple key things, maintain the flavor of the juice, but also maintain the nutritional integrity, because you're not heating it out through heat. You're not cooking out the nutrients and then having to put them back in through artificial means. You're maintaining that, because the pressure doesn't affect the chemical makeup of the juice, but it still gives you a shelf life. And so we were able to get a shelf life. I think at the time we were around a 30 to 40 day shelf life, which really allowed us to look at having, how can we ship it to, Whole Foods is actually the first customer that we were shipping it to.
I think a lot of our listeners have heard about it, but they know cold press. It's become very popular. But can you explain technically what is happening here? What are you pressurizing? Are you pressurizing to kill bacteria?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So it's really a 2-step. So you're pressing it through a press to get the juice out, and then you're bottling it, and then you're putting it through pressure, like a high pressure. So think about it. The best way to describe it is that it's about 7 times the pressure of the deepest part of the ocean.
Wow.
So it's a ton of pressure. I think it's like 67,000 psi. So it's a ton of pressure. And what that's doing is that's squeezing out all the bad bugs, as we like to say, but preserving the good bugs, and so, or the good ingredients that are in there.
Does that create heat?
It does. It creates there's a little bit of a heat transfer, but very little, not enough to cook the juice by any means. And so and you're not relying on the heat to pasteurize it, to get the shelf life. You're really relying on that pressure to do that. Just basically, really, it's squeeze out the bad bugs. That's really the best way to say it. So,
Yeah, because if you the old way to preserve juices was pasteurizing, and that's you're cooking it, as you say.
yeah, exactly.
That takes out flavor and it changes the composition.
Yeah, and I mean, it went from pasteurizing to flash pasteurizing, which was a shorter pasteurization. It was 30 seconds of heat, but it's still pretty intense heat that's cooking the juice. And so you have to go back and add ascorbic acids and other things like that to get that nutrient value back to where it was.
Yeah, I told you when we were talking before we started recording that my father grew apples.
Yeah,
but he also made fresh apple cider.
Okay.
But he refused to pasteurize it.
Yeah.
We just wasn't cold pressing. We just put it in plastic jugs. You couldn't put it in a glass jug.
Yeah.
But we sold that in roadside stands, and fortunately, we never had any trouble with anything. But he was adamant about it. Once you pasteurize it, the flavor's gone, the nutrition's gone. But anyway, that's
and I'll make one more point on because you mentioned fortunately we didn't have any problem. Jeff was quality's always been the first. We always say quality is the first ingredient that goes into the bottle. Yeah. Quality's always been extremely important at Suja, and we've had one of the best quality people, Ernest Black, from the beginning, and he's really allowed us to maintain that quality. We've had no real quality issues because of that, and that's always been a very, very important value to Suja. Because the last thing we want to do is make anybody sick, of course.
But because of the cold pressing, is that one of the reasons why it needs to be in the produce department?
Exactly.
Refrigerated? Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's all organic. We're only using organic fruits and vegetables, so it's really produce, and it's a premium juice, and because of that, it naturally fits with produce in the produce section, and that Bolthouse and Naked and Walla had already kind of established that super premium juice set within produce, and so we are a natural fit for there in that set. So you took it up another level. Exactly.
So tell us about first. Let's hear some of the most popular flavors, and then some of those nutritional things you've added to the juice.
Yeah. So I mean, originally when they had launched the juice, they thought it was going to be more of like an organic cold press analog to what was already out there. So it's Bolthouse, Naked, Agwala, premium juices. What we learned very early on is that the consumer that was consuming our juice was more interested in more nutrient dense juice, and so less sugar driven juices with apple and orange and some of the high sugar fruits, and more vegetable dense juices. And so really that's where we got our start, is with some of our more dense greens. Our number one juice is actually our Uber greens, and I think the name of it gives you an idea of what it is. It's it's kale, it's spinach, it's chlorella, it's all these dense greens shoved into a bottle, and we always say it's like drinking a salad.
Yeah, right. But there's got to be some sweeter juice that it's blended with. Is that apple?
In some cases, yeah, we do use. We have a range. We focus on providing a range to our consumers. But yeah, so we would use apple, we would use banana in some of our juices. We would use some of that to help naturally sweeten it. We don't add obviously any sugars. We use the produce to sweeten it. No concentrate. It's all. I mean, a perfect example of this is we always say most people try to hide their ingredients on the back of the bottle in really small print because they really don't want you to see it. Well, guess what? We put them all right on the front of the bottle because we're not ashamed of what we put in the juice.
Yeah. Easy to read even for a blind guy like me.
Exactly. Yeah. So
this has a long list. I'm looking at Jody brought us some juices to look at. I'm looking at the ingredients. Well, first of all, we got a big on the front here.
Yeah.
There's a few more on the full list, but there's nothing that is not natural on this list.
Not at all. Yeah.
There's no long scientific words on this.
No. There's no concentrates. There's and that's what you did start to see creep in is some of our bigger competitors start to go to more concentrates and things like that, where this, you can't cold press concentrates, you're depressing fruits and vegetables. And so this has really kind of brought that back to the produce set. And we always think, we're produce, we're just squeezed produce is what we are. We're not, we're not adding things to it that aren't produce.
Right.
So,
can you let these ferments and create a probiotic?
You could probably do that. We don't recommend that, of course.
Well, does the cold pressing, this high pressure, does that not destroy the bacteria that would cause it from that?
It does, but it would still spoil after.
If you open it, that bacteria
exactly. The bacteria gets back into the bottle, and it would still spoil over a certain amount of time. We have we have tried some stuff with fermentation and different flavors and stuff, and we haven't focused on that being the primary vehicle for what we're trying to accomplish. We've added probiotics to several of our juices as well. We continue, all of our shots have probiotics as well. So we're, probiotics are very important, but we're using organic probiotics and adding them to the juices versus like getting them to fermentation and stuff like that.
Because of the process, do you have a longer shelf life?
We do. We've been able, so one thing Jeff, our founding CEO, was able to do was really establish HPP, and we were actually a FDA testing site for, from the beginning, because we're actually one of the large, I think we are the largest now. Don't quote me, but we're one of the largest HPP, especially for juice. We're definitely the largest cold press juice on the market. Oh. And we have, several HPP machines now. So so what they focused on is, sorry, now I lost my train of thought. What was the first one? Shelf life. Yeah. So what we've been able to do as we've been able to test it more and more and more over the years, we've been able to expand our shelf life over the years, as we've got more confident in our testing and, as we've developed it further. So,
and is it about a 30-day shelf life across the board? Different juices?
It varies. It really varies on the composition of the juices and the pH level of the juices. Anything with acidity adds a little bit more shelf life to it because you have that natural acidity that helps preserve it. So it just depends on the composition of the juice. Most of our juices are up closer to 80 to 90 to 100 days now, and some even more than that. But that's, we're not doing anything different. We're just better at what we do, and we just are much more confident. We've been very conservative from the beginning. Going back to what I said earlier, we don't want people getting sick when they drink our juice. That was the last thing we want. We certainly don't want to make anybody have, kill anybody or anything like that. So we've been very, very conservative as we've grown this over the years. But you learn to do things better. You learn, you get the better testing and stuff like that.
So you have you brought us some samples here,
yeah,
and you've got some big bottles or bigger bottles, which would be about what you'd expect if you were going to buy juice off the shelf. But then we see these little guys here.
Yeah,
you call them shots.
They're little powerful shots.
And
yes.
Some interesting names. Well, not maybe it is the names. There's digestion. There's immunity boost.
Yeah.
And what's this? Another immunity boost. Tell us about the shots and what makes them different.
Yeah, so the shots are going to be a little bit more of a concentrated, a little more kick to them. So the juices are meant, kind of as an everyday, as you're going throughout your day, you're consuming your juices, you're getting your health and nutrition that way. Whereas the shots are meant to give you a little bit more of a kick up front. And so we're using a little bit more intense ingredients and a little bit more of a concentrated form in the sense of like ginger and turmeric and elderberry. And the idea is that they're meant to be a little bit more powerful. Like, similar, this maybe a bad analogy to use, but like you think about a beer being more of a sipper, whereas a shot of tequila, it just gets you there faster, right? So I like that's kind of how we think about it.
You could chase the tequila with this. I think that'd be pretty good.
Exactly. And to be honest with you, a lot of people are actually starting to mix some of those in drinks because they're pretty potent. Potent little guys.
This immunity boost says, you mentioned the ginger and turmeric, but you didn't tell the cayenne.
Yeah.
There's cayenne, so be careful. Read those labels if you don't like the spicy. I love the spicy. I love the turkey.
Yeah, and it's meant to be. It's meant to give a kind of a reaction. Like you're meant to really feel it, especially Vibe. You think about Vibe. They're a little bit more intense than any other shots that are out there on the market, and it's meant to really kind of.
They have a higher concentration of sugar in the shots.
Not necessarily sugar, because we're. They're still pretty low in sugar. I think this one has maybe a couple grams of sugar, so it's still pretty low. It's 10 calories, a couple grams of sugar, so it's still pretty low. We're not using a lot of like high sweet fruits to do it. We're using like more roots and things like that. We do mix it with some pineapple and some orange and things like that. But really, what people are looking for are those root vegetables, because they know, there's a lot more awareness around ginger and turmeric and even things like elderberry, those types of ingredients that really help naturally heal your body. And that's what these are intended to be, is a more of a natural healer for your body. Exactly. Antioxidants.
Elderberry. That looks good to me. You don't find elderberry juice very often out there. So
you don't. Yeah. And I mean, if you taste elderberry, it's not like a sipper kind of a fruit, it's got a unique flavor, and so it works very well in a shot, for example.
Right.
So biologically, the kicking it from this isn't a sugar mix; it's more of the spices.
It's more of a spice, and more a little bit more of an intense kind of kick, like in that sense. Yes,
sure. Yeah. The point is, those other things you're adding, those are ginger, turmeric, and those kind of things. I see one here. It's got probiotics.
Yeah,
and that is it's more like boosting your system rather than any kind of senses. Right?
Exactly, and where shots really took off. So shots have really come into their own, kind of in the late, 2010. So, I think Vibe launched in 2014, 2015 in there. We had some other brands that launched along the way as well. We launched ours, I think, right in 2018. But really what moved these to where they are today is the pandemic, because all of a sudden people were really concerned about immunity, and real immunity still is the largest kind of usage occasion that consumers are looking for with shots to help boost their immunity. And a lot of that, obviously, people became much more aware of that during the pandemic and making sure that they're boosting their immunity. And, a lot of people, especially younger, millennials, Gen Z, they don't want to go to the pharmacy to do that. They want it through natural means, and a lot of older generations are too. I'm Gen Xer, we want that as well. And so I think that's what really drove it during the pandemic, and it hasn't slowed down. Everybody thought we'd come off this huge bubble and this huge spike, but it has not slowed down. It's just continued to accelerate.
And there's been I've read a lot, and I'm not a nutrition expert. We don't want to promote something that's wrong, but I've read a lot of nutrition since we started this podcast about supplements, like just tablets.
Yeah.
And most of what I've read, and I'm not going to be the authority here, you do your own research.
Yeah.
Is that those supplements really don't do much of anything. You have to get it from whole foods.
Yeah.
And I think this qualifies.
This does, this will qualify. I mean, this is the closest thing to raw, because again, you're not using heat. You're not using artificial means to reinforce it. You're maintaining that with HPP. So
do you use aronia berries and
I don't believe we do. No, I'm not familiar with those. So again, I'm not the mixologist. We have a chef that's been with us from the beginning. He actually knew Eric. They were buddies. He went off and got trained at the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America. Graduated top of his class. His name's Brian Ribley. He's one of the best in the business. He is the best in the business as far as I'm concerned. And he's been with us from the beginning. So he's really good at mixing. He really understands composition. He really understands, what different fruits and vegetables and roots can do for you. And
they fit in a flavor.
Exactly. How they come together in a flavor, which is very important because people still want it to taste good. They want the health without the punishment, as we always say. So
the reason I asked you about aronia berries is I grow them in my garden.
Oh, okay.
And I noticed that a lot of the juice companies use the aronia berry juice for color.
Oh,
but they also have like 10 times more antioxidants than beer.
Okay.
But they are almost tasteless. I grind them up to a blender with water.
Yeah.
And it just tastes like water. But there's all these antioxidants.
Yeah,
you get from
them. Yeah. We may use them. I'm not, again, I'm not the guy that's mixing all this stuff. We've been pressing fruits and vegetables now for 12 years. And now we're pressing over 1 million pounds of produce every week. And so we're getting every week. Yeah. So, when you come into our manufacturing facility, you walk in and there's, layers and layers of fresh produce. We're bringing in every week, pressing it, and then bottling it, HPP, and shipping out. And we get all of it. The reason one question we always get is like, why are you guys in California? Why not build a facility on the East Coast? Well, we need to be there because about 75% of all the produce that we press is from California. We grow, we're in the Imperial Valley and down in Yuma. We rotate obviously between those, but we need to be basically right in the middle of that. So,
do you grow any of your own, or is it all sourced from others?
We did some contract growing. We've done some of that over the years, but But no, we're working with suppliers as well. So,
That's interesting.
yeah, so that's a kind of a unique. I don't think people realize the scale of the business. And coming to a produce show, we are a produce company. Like it's just in a bottle. So
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of fresh produce to make juice.
it does.
You squeeze an orange, you don't get very much juice. You get
Exactly.
a tiny amount of juice. So in order to get it to put in a bottle, you've got
Yeah, what's
a lot of vegetables.
It does. It takes a lot, and then we get so because of that, we get a lot of byproduct, and so we're figuring out ways to
Oh, what to do
upcycle
with
that.
that.
Yeah. So we launched the powder this year. So we're looking at ways that how do we, we also donate it to farms and things like that to feed animals and stuff. Exactly. But now we're figuring out a way to upcycle it so that we can use it and make our own products from it because you get all the fiber and all the stuff that's left over after the pressing. So we're really excited about that whole sustainability cycle as well.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up on that if you guys figure out exactly what you're going to do. And
Exactly.
see how that works.
Yeah.
That's like 25 semi loads of juice a week.
Yeah, we get a ton of produce in there. It's a lot.
Okay. Well, that's fantastic. So you have to look for Suja. That's SUJA in your produce.
And Vibe, VIBE.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have Vibe in the larger, or is that just the
No,
shot?
Vibe is really just the shots. It's really just a shots brand.
Right.
So
So look for those in your produce section. Try them out. They're delicious. They really come up with some very creative flavors. You'll love it and you'll feel good.
we're really excited. We're launching a plant-based protein line as well, which I brought with me.
Yeah.
And it's got 16 grams of protein, but then it's loaded with vitamins as well. So it's got your vitamins A, B, D, C, and E. So lots of vitamins. And again, we're
You missed the most important thing about that, Sean. It's chocolate, people. It's
and
chocolate.
it tastes great. I mean, a lot of times plant proteins are very chalky flavor.
Yeah.
These taste great. They're very smooth. Again, credit to Brian and how he's able to pull these, mix
Right.
things together.
So now you can drink chocolate milk and then do it healthy.
Exactly. I mean,
milk.
they're low in sugar, and I think they're less than.
And that's the
10 grams of
16,
sugar, yeah.
16 grams of protein in that.
Yeah,
bottle.
yeah.
Where
So
does the protein come from?
it's a mix of different plant-based proteins, so pea and hemp and rice and those types of things. So
Because I thought it looks like coconut is the first.
yeah, coconut. We use coconut not so much as a protein,
Right,
as more of a
fat.
base.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating. You guys are doing some great work. You're providing a delicious product that's also healthy and nutritious. So thanks for joining us.
well, thank you.
Are you going to put him through the pain for Richard?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, I purposely didn't tell you about this because
Okay.
some people, if I told them, I'm afraid they wouldn't come. But we require all our guests to go through a very painful ritual
Okay. Well,
before we
it
finish.
scares me a little bit.
Okay, here's the thing. This segment is called Home Grown. And Teresa loves puns.
Okay.
So
Good.
in every episode, she pulls out a pun from her repertoire, and it's usually in the form of a question.
Okay.
And we try to guess what the punny answer would be. Okay. But it's bad. I'm sorry. You're going to feel a lot of pain. You're not going to want to laugh. You're going to want to groan. That's what we call it, home grown.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So Teresa, what's our home grown today?
Okay. So why did the Suja Juice wannabe have to go to the therapist?
Okay. Now let me make sure I understand this. You've got some time to think about it. Why did the Suja Juice wannabe juice?
Uh-huh.
So he was not accepted into the Suja line yet because
Right.
he had to qualify.
Yeah.
But he had to go to the therapist because of
Right.
this thing he was going through to
Right.
get qualified for Suja.
Right.
So why did the Suja Juice
boy.
wannabe juice?
And it's a
have to
pun,
go
of
to the
course. So
therapist. Okay.
I'm trying to think. This is pretty tough.
I don't know. Inferiority
know.
complex. Inferior.
He needed to boost his juice.
Oh, there we go.
Because he was afraid of being squeezed and crushed.
No. But that's a good reason.
What about you, Jody? Any guesses?
Oh boy, I don't know.
Are you a
Because he
father?
was green with anger.
Oh,
I love it.
green with it. Uber green. He was uber green.
There we go. He was uber green with anger.
Yeah. Well, he was probably under a lot of pressure too, but
Oh, that would have been a good one. But what's the real answer?
well, he got involved in a whirlwind relationship with a blender and couldn't concentrate.
We'll have to remember that one. I like that.
Well, that's good that he couldn't concentrate if he wanted to eat Suja Juice because he's not concentrating.
Exactly. He wouldn't have been welcome in the family.
We didn't grow enough. We didn't grow enough.
So that was wonderful.
Well, Jody, thanks again so much.
Thank you.
Good luck to you guys.
It's been an honor to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Thanks for joining.
yeah.
Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
We appreciate it. Good luck.
That was fun.
Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page. And check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.